Sup y'all, and welcome to Unit 6, Revolutions Reloaded, Part 3. In this video, we're going to look at the Haitian Revolution and ask this essential question: how did the diffusion of Enlightenment thought alter the course of history for Latin America?
Now, the values of liberty and equality espoused in the American and French revolutions challenged slavery that was especially prevalent in the French colony of Saint-Domingue, which is Haiti today. It would be here that slaves, inspired by Enlightenment ideas, would liberate themselves from tyranny. After 1763, when France lost the 7 Years' War, the most profitable colony remaining for the French was Saint-Domingue, with more than 3,000 plantations and more than 90% of its population made up of slaves. At that time, they produced 40% of the world's sugar. The different classes had very little in common. The whites, the mixed races, and the others. They all lacked unity. In 1789, the colony's white settlers and the other free citizens sent separate delegations to the Estates General, and when revolution broke out in France, fighting also spread to Saint-Domingue. After the French Revolution began, a civil war broke out in Saint-Domingue that pit the colonists of white and mixed races against each other. It was in 1791 that the slaves seized upon the chance to rebel. Led by Toussaint Louverture, the rebels won several key victories and gained territory of their own. Escaping slaves joined his forces, and a well-organized force of over 20,000 men was formed. In 1793, the Spanish, who controlled the eastern side of Hispaniola, looked to take the entire island, and in 1794, the British invaded Saint-Domingue to protect their Caribbean interests. Toussaint's forces, allied with the French, defeated the Spanish in 1794, and eventually forced the British into retreat by 1798. Now, even though Toussaint's forces were well organized, their best friend was, that's right, geography. Actually, their best weapon was the lowly mosquito, more accurately, millions of them, carrying the deadly diseases yellow fever and malaria. The Europeans had little resistance to these ailments and died by the thousands. In the early 1800s, Napoleon sent troops to take control of the island, but they too left after losing thousands to disease and brutal fighting. And even though Toussaint was arrested and later died in prison, by 1804, the slaves had won their independence, renaming the new nation Haiti, which means mountainous. They were the first of many Latin American countries to rebel against their colonial masters. Unfortunately for them, years of fighting led to brain drain, which is when the rich and educated elites leave. Additionally, many of their profitable plantations were destroyed. Over time, Haiti would become victim to corrupt dictator after corrupt dictator. Their independence story would go counter to the American story, and in fact today, Haiti is the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere. Nonetheless, the American and Haitian revolutions helped inspire independence movements throughout Latin America. Now we move our attention to the last section on the revolutions in Latin America. Now, revolutions broke out in Latin America mainly due to the Peninsular War that waged from 1808 to 1814. This war started when Napoleon placed his brother on the throne of Spain, and forces loyal to the king rebelled against France. As a result, thousands of Spanish troops that were in the Americas were recalled back to Spain. It was the Napoleonic Wars that created the spark that ignited the many revolutions that erupted in Latin America. Now, often considered the George Washington of South America, a Creole named Simón Bolívar became the greatest revolutionary leader of his era. He was educated in the West and was a true child of the Enlightenment. Bolívar was inspired by the revolutions in France and in the Americas. In 1810, as wars occupied the powers of Europe, Bolívar began a revolt in Caracas, which is modern-day Venezuela. Later, in 1819, he crossed the swamps and the Andes Mountains to defeat the Spanish in Bogotá, which is in modern-day Colombia. And in 1821, Bolívar, known as the Liberator, became president of a united Gran Colombia. Another major revolutionary was another Western educated Creole named José de San Martín. and from 1816 to 1821, he defeated the Spanish in places like Argentina, Chile, and Lima in what is now Peru. In 1822, Martín allowed Bolívar to win the final battles against Spain. Simón Bolívar's legacy has been a great one, although the unified country he founded, Gran Colombia, devolved into the countries we know today, Venezuela, Colombia, and Ecuador. The upper part of Peru became an independent nation called Bolivia, and also the official currency of Venezuela is called the Bolivar, so you get an idea about his overall importance. Moving on to other revolts in Latin America. Now, Spain's most valuable possession in the Americas was New Spain and what is mostly Mexico today. In 1819, a radical priest named Miguel Hidalgo organized a peasant and Amerind revolt against Spain. This revolt failed because he was unable to gain support from the Creoles. Hidalgo was captured and then executed. Nonetheless, for his actions, he is considered to be the father of the nation of Mexico. Now later in 1820, Agustin de Iturbide, who was a Creole, reached out to Creoles, Peninsulares, Mestizos, and Amerinds, and by 1821, the revolutionaries overthrew the Spanish and established the Republic of Mexico. In time, however, Iturbide made himself into a dictator and changed his title to Augustin I. Now, eventually he was overthrown by revolutionaries who rose up against him. And the story of Mexico would be repeated in many other Latin American countries. Most of the population's lives changed very little. They gained few riches or rights, if any, and they fell victim to many military dictatorships over many, many years. They mainly traded one set of masters for another. Yet another country to investigate was Brazil. Now this was Portugal's only major holding in the Americas. In 1807, prior to the Peninsular War, Napoleon occupied Lisbon, the capital of Portugal. Prince Regent João and his court escaped to Brazil, escorted by British ships. And by 1816, after Napoleon's defeat, he became King João VI, and chose to stay in Brazil even after Portugal was liberated. By 1821, João VI was forced to return to Portugal or to lose his throne. So, in 1822, a revolution broke out in Brazil, eventually making themselves independent. And by 1825, almost all of Latin America had become independent.
Who are you? Ivan the Red. What do you want? To fight you. What? Gordon, that coward, won't accept my challenge. What's that to do with me? If I keep killing ninjas, I'll drown him out. You're mad. Gordon's a great ninja. No! I'll prove I'm the best. Huh?